Something strange is happening in a lovely part of Los Angeles that attracts many international visitors. A place of great beaches, sunsets, canals, sensitive environmental conditions, fabulous restaurants and bars, lovely homes, and a mixed but mainly well-off community. In February 2014, the Los Angeles Times reported that there were 174 homeless people in Venice. Today, almost 1,200 people, overwhelmingly working-age males from other places, live on Venice's streets and beaches. This is largely because Councilman Bonin has launched a campaign to transform Venice into the designated homeless hub for the western half of Los Angeles by installing a massive infrastructure the locals call the Monster for the ongoing delivery of homeless housing and services unmatched anywhere in the city, including hundreds of units of free housing for life on some of the most desirable lots in the world at a cost of $1,250 or more per square foot. Hundreds of new shelter beds, even as the utilisation rate of existing shelters in Los Angeles hovers below 60%. Showers, toilets and water stations for mega encampments on Oceanfront Walk and at 3rd and Rose. The street-dwelling population in Venice has skyrocketed, while the street-dwelling population in the rest of Council District 11 has dropped by double digits, including a 77% drop in Brentwood, a 59% drop in Pacific Palisades, and a 42% drop in Westchester, Playa del Rey during the same period of time. Venice now accounts for just 5% of the land, but 49% of the street-dwelling population in Council District 11. Well, it's that time of the week once again from Holthouse, Carlin and Van Trite. First of all, Blake, welcome.
Great to see you, Mike.
In opportunity zones, Blake, tax incentives are used to transform disadvantaged areas. Are you aware of opportunity zone projects in rich communities or for accommodating the homeless?
You know, there actually are, the way that the Opportunity Zone program boundaries were crafted is they did allow the governors of each state to pick from a pretty large group of census tracts for what would become the Opportunity Zone program in their state. And they allowed some limited choosing of census tracts that were adjacent to poorer neighborhoods. So you did end up, and it became quite controversial, it's still controversial right now, that you have some very nice areas. Portland is a good example, some areas of Los Angeles that don't appear to be in distress, but they just happen to be adjacent to these depressed areas. And so to get some synergies, they allowed those upper income census tracts to be included. But I don't think we'll see that in the next round.
There are strong community concerns in Venice Beach that the homeless are being actively encouraged into the area and that by creating lower average income in census tracts, developers would qualify for low-income tax credits to develop the area in ways they have not been permitted to do so in the past. Does this sound like a valid argument to yourself?
You know, I could see that, but I just, in my practice, I just can't imagine, you know, somebody wanting to bring all those people into the area simply to qualify. I mean, in fact, I mean the boundaries have already been decided. There's some talk that they might get expanded, but that's a pretty extreme situation.
It is California, though, and anything happens in California now more so than ever, I would imagine too, that it looks like Joe Biden will end up being the president, and Kamala Harris, being from California, will also have a major say not only in California but also throughout the US. So what isn't the normal may end up being the norm.
Absolutely. One other thing that happened because again they picked these low income census tracts, and so a lot of the university areas, which aren't always depressed areas, ended up counting because you had all of those students who, make nothing or close to nothing while they're going to school. So, you have Chapel Hill in North Carolina, and Duke. I think there's a bunch of pretty nice university census tracts that were included. So some unintended consequences.
Elected council representatives have said they hope to use federal stimulus funds to buy distressed properties, such as abandoned hotels and houses resulting from the pandemic, to house the growing number of homeless in Venice. Are you aware of federal or stimulus funds being used for such purposes in California?
I have not seen that, but there are so many programs that can be accessed. I wouldn't be surprised. I have seen these in other areas of the country where people are repurposing hotels, and in some cases they're talking about office space for low income housing, but they're typically not using government funds, maybe government programs, but not just stimulus payments in this next round.
Many people want to see the homeless accommodated in sustainable and affordable ways. However, the scale of plans for Venice would fracture a community that has taken pride in their area. Venice Beach has also been a huge magnet for visitors, both national and international, which will no longer be the case if local government makes it a permanent haven for the homeless. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, the problem, and I'm sensitive to the homeless situation, but you're right. When you put a bunch of infrastructure and services, it's like a magnet for the homeless, and I think some of the decrease in some of those surrounding cities that you talked about are because they're being drawn to this area that is saying come see us because we have all these services and we're going to build homes for you, etc. Where I live, Park City, we have not one bed or shelter, and so all the homeless go to Salt Lake City. So by policy you can move people, and it sounds like Venice is attracting them. Ironically, I was on a call with a client today, a high-tech guy, and he's selling his Venice house and moving to rural Malibu, and this is part of the reason.
How do you think the problem can be better dealt with in Venice and other parts of LA and California when it comes to the homeless problem?
Well, and this may sound a little bit crass, but I've always been an advocate of using commercial, more commercial properties, because the problem is when you just integrate the homeless into the residential areas, it does create more crime. Most of these people are homeless, the vast majority, because of mental illness. And so now you're going to be having them in the neighborhood with kids and things. And so I like the idea of having them, a little bit, away from, some of the residential areas. And the other thing, you can set up, healthcare and things easier when you're in a little more commercial or industrial area. So that's what I would generally like to see, and maybe you have some limited integration for those that are don't have have received treatment and don't have all the mental problems that we so often see.
Heard from one of the residents in Venice, living on the canal, which is a beautiful part of the world, was one of the great secrets of California, was saying that the older homeless were moved out by the new homeless who weren't as nice, didn't really care about the area a whole lot, and they were also armed. So it sort of changes the whole area when you got these, got a lot of unhappy people with guns as your neighbours on your front lawn. It can be quite quite distressing, can't it?
Right, right. And yeah, some of them, you know, none of us are that offended by somebody asking for money, but when they get in your face or a little more threatening, and you do see that in a lot of these communities.
Tell us about, because you really know about portable housing. You're very involved in it, and you have some great ideas, especially with container homes. Tell us about these and more about that part of, because you've got so many fingers in pies. You've got more fingers in pies than there are in a bakery, so it's amazing. But this one is really, it's a great story, and it really does address, in many ways, the problem of being homeless.
Right. So this idea kind of gnawed at me for a while when my office in Long Beach overlooked the ports of Long Beach and LA. So it was nice ocean view, but yeah, it was very industrial, and you saw literally hundreds of thousands of containers, shipping containers. I would look at them all day, and so having traveled to Japan a few times, and they have this kind of micro hotel concept, and just sleep chambers for the business people to do an overnight when they've stayed out too late. And so I thought of the idea of like an apartment where it would be kind of a minimalistic sleeping space, but you would have very high-end, elaborate common space for everybody in there. And so I just kind of kicked it around with some architects and things, but didn't really go anywhere. And then when I moved to Park City, every time I opened the paper, it was talking about workforce housing, workforce housing. We bring about 3,500 people a year in to work the three major ski resorts in town, and they have no place to stay. They don't have cars. They don't, they're just there to work and ski, and they usually end up staying in people's basements, which sounds terrible, but a Park City basement is actually pretty nice, but it's still clunky. And so I envisioned, building a community of containerized housing, and then have it on 10 acres, say, and just have them commute via bus, and you'd have everybody in one sput. So I got tired of talking about it. Everybody was like, they'd nod their head and say, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, but it's kind of cruel. I can't imagine, having some poor person, living in a container. So I got so tired of it, I finally built one on spec to show them spatially that it's actually pretty comfortable. And so we built one that sleeps four. It's all solar. It's very well insulated. Own water source and everything. And we had when we displayed it, we had about 500 people come through in the course of 2 weeks. And the mayor spent an hour and a half in the unit, and people loved it. So anyway, we're still working on that and working on a manufacturing plant down in Salt Lake City right now.
They're pretty amazing things. I mean, there's lots of YouTubers out there and small television programs too about tiny house living. And because you think a container, but what you can do with a container, and they're normally talking about a 20-foot container or maybe a 40-foot, but yours are 45-foot containers. In fact, I saw one that was a double-story one, and it looks stunning inside. So it's a great alternative to those that need a house, but it can be also the first choice over a house because they are portable. You find this beautiful block of land and you just plonk it down there, and you've got yourself a $1 million view with a wonderful place to live in, and doesn't cost you $1 million.
Exactly, and the portability, as we were talking before, this container building versus what we refer to as stick build, a traditional house, it's actually more expensive on a square foot basis. But the portability, and if you look at it, we are going to be a more mobile workforce in the future. Where people are going to be, because of specialties, because of need, you're going to be moving from one place to another. And so some millennial who isn't looking for a 3 to 5,000 square foot house, they kind of lean a little bit more minimalist. They could have one of these, and then they could be working in California one year and then get a job offer in New York, and plop this on a truck, take it across country, or swap it with somebody that has a container on the East Coast, and there you go. Or they end up on an assignment in Australia, and they throw this on a ship. The fact that it's a standardized container, it's so mobile. You can't move a house, you can move a container.
If somebody wants to find out more about container homes, how would they do that?
Well, our website is Basecamp Utah, and then we also have one called grannyflats.com, and our new company will be Modular Innovation Technologies, MIT.
Fantastic talking once again. If somebody wants to find out other things other than container homes and granny flats and modular houses, how would they do that?
So our firm website is www.hcbt.com, or you can just Google Blake Christian CPA, and all of my different activities will come up.
Blake Christian, thank you very much.
Thank you.